Evening, all you fine folks of the airwaves. This is your host with the most, back again to uncover what lies beyond the veil. You ever heard a creature locked behind steel, studied by scientists, and erased from the public's eye? That's an SCP, baby. And tonight we're peeling back the curtain of the Foundation's secret vault. Stories the government would rather you forget, but we remember. Light a smoke or a drink and stay sharp. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Starting off, we are starting with. Gotta find papers. There we are. And we are starting with SCP-002 tonight, the living room. Before I get started into all this, I don't remember much about this SCP. I don't know much about it. The living room. It sounds like one of those. What is it? What would you consider a living room? It reminds me of the Flesh That Hates, which is an SCP we'll get around to. I think we've already done, or we'll get around to at some. I think we've already done that one actually. In the past, we've done something about it, if my memory recalls. Anyways, let's get right into it. Let's see. As again, with SCP, they're usually more anonymous by anything, mostly by former Foundation members. But of course, let's get right into it, though. Sometimes okay, so this is just by a former Foundation technician. I've signed more NDAs than I can count, and I've had anesthetics. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's that stuff that kind of makes you loopy or forgetful or stuff, whatever you want to call it. More times than I can remember, literally, but some memories, they come back anyway. Usually in dreams, sometimes when I walk into a quiet room and something doesn't feel quite right. I used to work for the SCP Foundation. No, I won't tell you where. All I'll say is I was stationed at a temporary containment site back in 2013. Somewhere in Royal Portugal. I didn't know that there could be some foundations out that far. Oh well. My job was basic maintenance. A low-level tech under Class C clearance. Just enough to sweep the floors and check the environmentals on things we weren't even supposed to look at. One of those things was SCP-002. If you don't know, they call it the living room. and that's exactly what it looks like. On the inside, anyway, from the outside is a disgusting fleshy growth about the size of a small cargo container, pulsing, veined, almost organic. Imagine a tumor the size of a house breathing quietly in the dark. That's disturbing on several levels. Mostly just the fact that it is a large, like almost like a tumorous growth. Size of a house, though, that's also what makes it just creepy. I was told to stay away. Everyone was. You don't go near 002 unless you're explicitly authorized. But one night, everything went to hell. There was a power flicker around 2:40 a.m. The backup systems didn't kick in right away, and the alarm started going off. I was on call, so I grabbed my badge and ran to control room. One of the guards, Menendez, that is a name that just kicked so many memories from something, was staring at the monitor, white as a ghost. It's open, he said. I looked. He was right. The door to SCP-002 had opened on its own. That door, mind you, doesn't open without without 3 levels of override, and we didn't initiate anything. We called it in, no response. Comms were down. Then someone inside the chamber moved. At first, we thought it was a glitch in the camera feed. I guess I didn't drink enough coffee tonight. Anyways, camera feed. Some kind of distortion, but it wasn't. Something had stepped out in the interior of SCP-002. Not a person, not a creature, just a shadow. And then it was gone. That's when Menendez pulled his gun and said, "I'm checking it." He didn't come back. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Then we saw it. The door closed again, on its own, and the power came back. Security protocol kicked in. We were told to lock the site down and await a rapid response team. Standard stuff when personnel go missing near an active anomaly. I was told to return to my bunk and wait for questioning. I didn't listen. Now, from the stories we have heard and what we have, received, normally that's not a good idea. You should always probably listen to the higher ups, especially in a foundation like this, knowing that they can give you anesthetics or amnetics, blah blah. English. My English isn't good today, it seems. I don't know what compelled me, but when I went back to the chamber, maybe I thought I'd find Menendez. Maybe I just needed to see it. That air outside SCP-002 smelled like copper and mildew. The thing was pulsing, slow and steady, and the door was open again. I stepped inside. That's the part that still makes me sick to my stomach. Inside, SCP-002 was a fully furnished living room. Sofa, recliner, bookshelves, a small TV, warm lighting, but everything was off. Like it had been grown rather than built. The armchair was stitched from what looked like tanned skin. The lamp had bones for a stand. The books on the shelves were bound in something leathery, and the writing inside was a language I've never seen. Not human. Then I saw the portrait. Above the fireplace hung a painting, a man in a Foundation uniform. Menendez. Just like that. Framed, smiling. And then the lights flickered, and I swear to you, I heard breathing. It wasn't mine. The walls started to move. Not drastically, but they flexed like lungs. That's when I ran. I barely made it up before the door slammed behind me. Alarms flared again, and SCP-002 hasn't opened since. They tell me Menendez was lost in the line of duty. That there was no footage, no records, and then they gave me a drink. I don't remember much after that. But I do know this. SCP-002 eats people. It digests them, and then it adds them to itself. A new lamp here, a rug there, a painting on the wall. The furniture it's made from people who go in. They become part of the room. And sometimes when the lights are low and I'm half asleep on the couch, I swear I hear breathing behind the walls. Now, that's creepy beyond several levels, mostly due to the fact that it's a living entity that just makes a room out of flesh. Like, how can you expect, or how can you deal with something like that and not, think of something worse off? And sorry if you're hearing noise. I'm having to feed our little local feline here that we have in our studio. Yes, I hear you. Yes. Sorry about this, everybody. To kind of finish up my final thoughts on what's that? SCP-002 is that have they not tried, burning it? Maybe that would probably be better to do, is just to burn it and not, let it do this stuff, because it seems to be very sentient enough to actually know how to get through protocols and lure people in, just like one of those fly traps. I think that's what I'm thinking. Anyways, I'm stalling, it seems. Anyways, on to the next one. And this one, we're gonna kind of go a little bit of order tonight. So this time is now SCP-003, the biological motherboard. And once again, submitted by an anonymous source by a former Site-19 research assistant. I've debated for a long time whether or not to write this. I've tried forgetting, I've tried moving on. But there are some things your mind won't let go of. No matter how many pills you take, how many doctors you see, or how many foundation therapists with fake smiles tell you, it was just exposed trauma. No, it wasn't. It was SCP-003. And if you know what that is, then you know I'm not exaggerating when I say the world is lucky it's still turning. Let me back up. I was a junior research assistant working under Dr. Cortez in Site-19 in early 2016. I'd been at the Foundation for over just a year. Young, dumb, eager. SCP-003 was one of those restricted exposed anomalies. Technology, vaguely biological? Am I just reading typos, or am I just that incoherent with English today? Probably both. Anyways, dangerously intelligent. Think ancient alien motherboard covered in muscle fibers, skin, and something like organic code. They called it the biological motherboard, but we didn't know who built it or why. My job was basic. Monitor vitals, run spectral scans, update logs, nothing glamorous, until the power outage. Now, I've noticed one thing about all these stories is that there's always an outage. Is it always sabotage, or is it just the anomalies doing this? Either one, they're horrible. My job was, okay, we already read that part. See, 003 is only stable under intense temperature control. It needs to be kept below 35 degrees Celsius at all times. If it starts heating up, it grows. Not like a plant, like a living machine remembering what it used to be, and what it wants to become again. That night, the coolant system failed, just for 4 minutes, but 4 minutes was enough. When the lights came back, the chamber alarm was blaring, and 003 had changed. It had grown legs, arms, a spine, mechanical at first and layered with flesh. Like it was assembling itself from blueprints we couldn't see, like it knew exactly what it was supposed to be. Something human-shaped, but not quite right. Not built for us. Security got there within 5 minutes. We were all told to evacuate, but Dr. Cortez, he didn't move. He was staring at it, whispering to himself. I stayed too long. 003 looked at me. Its face wasn't really a face, just shifting patterns of light across raw sinew and wires. But somehow I could feel it seeing me, inside me. And I heard a voice, not with my ears, in my head. Return to function. Reintegration required. Now this is where if I was hearing something like that, I would know it's time to leave. This is one of those creepy ones, especially if it can, telepathically speak to you. I dropped to my knees. My brain felt like it was being rewired, flooded with images I couldn't comprehend. Alien architect machines fused with bones, screaming stars burning blue and cold. And beneath all of it, something watching. I blacked out. When I came to, I was in med bay. 3 days had passed. SCP-003 had reverted, cooled down, broken down into its base components, motionless again, like it never moved. But it remembered me. Every time I passed its chamber after that, even if I wasn't looking at it, the temperature would spike slightly, just enough to trip a warning, just enough to say, I know you. They removed me from the project after 2 more incidences, reassigned me to safe class anomalies. A mercy, I guess. But the dreams never stopped. I see that form standing over me, whispering in a language older than Earth. I feel wires under my skin, and I hear that phrase, reintegration required. And sometimes when I look in the mirror, I swear my reflection glitches. Just for a second, like I'm becoming something else. Now, I don't have much to say on that besides, again, just like SCP-002, why don't you guys just destroy this stuff? Because it doesn't sound horribly indestructible, but why not just melt it down? Or, destroy it like most anomalies? Why keep these things to, research and stuff? Because if it's a one-time thing, or just a one incident situation where it's just one anomaly that you guys just randomly find, just get rid of it. Just destroy it. Why hold on to it? That doesn't make sense to me. This time we're not going to do any commercial breaks today. I think I've had enough of a long break as is, away from the radio waves. So we're just going to continue on for now. So once again, we're going to continue on down the list, and we're on now SCP-004, the 12 rusted keys and the door. I don't know, I've never heard of this one, to be honest, so I don't know anything about this. This one's going to actually be quite new to me. But again, another former site researcher, but this one's Site 44, and the name of this one is called The Keys to Hell. Now, I don't know how I feel about that. That's a little vague on that. But let's get right into it to see what this one's about. I don't think there's anything worse than knowing you're responsible for unlocking hell. Okay, already starting off strong on that. But, so, unlocking hell, being responsible for that. I think, if I was responsible for unlocking hell, I'd rather... I don't know. I guess I don't have much to say at the moment until I guess we go through a little bit more of this. Before I get into that, let me explain. I was stationed at Site 44 in 2014. Just a regular guy. I had a basic level of clearance, and my job was mundane. Oversee mundane testing and help out with the containment protocols for safe class SCPs. But that's not what this is about. What I'm going to tell you is about SCP-004, also known as the 12 keys and the door. The 12 rusted keys in the door. We all knew the stories, we all heard the whispers. When we first arrived on the site, those of us in the lower ranks were curious, but cautious. The researchers higher up kept it under wraps, like it was something too dangerous to even look at. We just thought it was some forgotten artifact, like most of the door anomalies, right? Just a weird object. And see, right there, I do have something on that one, because didn't they say something about, let me look back through the paper, mundane, oversee mundane testing, so safe class SCPs. I don't know very much about the different classes, besides there is like safe, Euclid, and something like that, or something along those lines, but safe class, why is something that supposedly unlocks hell in a safe class environment? That's what doesn't make sense to me. But let's continue. But I didn't know what I was getting into. It started with a simple request: retrieve a key. One of the lead researchers, Dr. Abrams, asked me to go into the containment locker and grab one of the 12 rusted keys that were kept there. Just one key? The one marked with the number 5. Easy enough, right? In theory, yes. The locker was just a normal containment unit, metal, reinforced, equipped with a high-tech lock. But the thing that got me from the moment I stepped into the room was the door. It sat at the far end of the room, chained and locked. A massive ancient door that had a bizarre, unsettling presence to it. The wooden surface was scarred, pockmarked by years of age, and there was something almost alive about it. The rusted iron lock was the size of my fist. Size of the fist. I guess if everybody closes their hand into making a fist, that's pretty large. I guess it depends on the person. The door was connected to SCP-004. The keys that were kept in the locker weren't just keys; they were keys to other realities, to other places, and every single one of them had a history, a story. The key marked with the number 5 was particularly significant, though no one seemed to want to talk about it. Just that the key has never been used before. But that's where things started going wrong. I retrieved the key as instructed and walked over to the door. I didn't think anything of it. Honestly, I didn't. I was just a technician. I figured I would just unlock it, do the test, and move on. I was wrong. As soon as I slid the key into the lock, the room shifted, the air grew heavy, and I felt a coldness like I was being pulled into something else. The moment the key turned, I heard the click of the lock and then a thunderous sound like the earth itself groaning under pressure. The door opened, and that's when everything went black. I woke up somewhere else. It wasn't the containment room anymore. It was like a hallway, an endless dark hallway. The walls were made of some strange metal. What? Listening, and it was as if it was oh my god, English. And as if they were alive. The floor beneath me shifted with each step, like I was walking on something that was breathing. There was no windows, no light other than the faint glow of something far in the distance. It felt like something was waiting. I started to walk, trying to figure out where I was. Every sound echoed, every step reverberated in my bones. But no matter how far I walked, the hallway never seemed to end. My heart raced as I turned back, only to find the door I came through was gone. In its place was more of the same, the endless hallway stretching far beyond the limits of reason. And that's when I heard it, a voice, a whisper so low it seemed to crawl through the air. It came from everywhere, from inside my skull. You shouldn't have opened it, now you belong here. I tried running, but the hallway distorted, the walls warped. The more I ran, the further the doors seemed to slip away. Like I was in a nightmare I couldn't escape. Eventually I collapsed. I don't know how long I was there, lost in that twisted place. I had no sense of time, no sense of direction, but there was always that whisper. Always that voice urging me forward until I had no choice but to answer. Where am I? The response was immediate. You've unlocked what should not. That should never be unlocked. The hallway started to distort, and I saw figures, no, shadows, moving along the wall. They weren't human, they didn't even have a form. They were just horrifying shapes that had no place in this reality. Their eyes, if they could be called that, were empty voids, staring at me, following me. And then I saw it. At the end of the hall, there was a door. One that wasn't there before, but this one was different. It wasn't chained or locked. It was open. And I felt a compulsion to walk toward it, to enter it. I didn't want to, but I did. And when I crossed the threshold, I was back in the containment room. The door was shut, the lock intact, but the key I had used, the key marked 5, was now on the floor next to me. The same key, but it was cold. The rust had spread across it, almost like it had aged 100 years in the span of a few minutes. I haven't been able to shake the feeling since. The hallway still exists somewhere. Those whispers still follow me. I don't know if anyone will ever understand what I saw, but I swear this, never use the keys, not even to test, not even to just look. Some doors weren't meant to open, and SCP-004 is one of them. My thoughts on that is, again, that does not sound very... This one didn't sound as scary as I was expecting. This one was more tamed than the others that we've had in the past and or recent. Mostly just because it is very avoidable. It's avoidable to not open this door. Of course, the Foundation always just does tests for who knows why, for unknown reasons. and but this door is very avoidable. It's not really that scary, and it may be haunting to some of those that, because it almost sounds like more nightmarish than anything. It doesn't sound like you open the door to hell, but I guess everybody has their own definition of it. Now then, one more for the night before we have to call tonight's broadcast. This one is SCP-005, and this one is called the Skeleton Key. And once again, anonymous researcher at Site-19. Oh, it's another Site-19, I think. I was a low-level researcher when I first came across 005. I didn't know much about it at the time, just the basics. Everyone else had already moved on to more tense anomalies. The ones with complex behavior and unusual properties. SCP-005 was simple, they said. Too simple, just a key. Not even a large key, a rusted, standard-looking thing. But as soon as I'd soon learn it was far from an ordinary object. Now, this is why I kind of find it interesting, because we are continuing on to the next SCP. That's another key. This one I'm kind of curious on what this one does, because a skeleton key, if you've heard in different, I guess, literature and stuff, skeleton keys are usually keys that you can just open any door. But we'll see. At first, my job was to log in or log it, take some measurements, and report my findings. Basic stuff. The key, officially known as 005, was unremarkable at first glance. It didn't look anything special. In fact, it was the kind of key you'd see hanging on janitor's keychain. Nothing strange about it at all. But that was the first mistake. What we didn't know was 005 didn't just open locks. It opened every lock. See, right there. It opens every lock. Just like most literature about keys named skeleton keys. I was tasked with conducting a few simple experiments, trying out different locks around Site-19. No big deal, right? I'd seen weirder things in the Foundation, so I wasn't worried about a simple key. That's when I made the discovery that would haunt me for the rest of my life. The first lock I tried it on was a file cabinet in one of the research rooms. I didn't expect much, just a simple test to see if it worked. When I turned the key in the lock, I heard a satisfying click, and the drawer opened. Inside was nothing unusual, just some old files. But when I closed the drawer and turned the key again, something strange happened. The lock clicked back into place, but the file cabinet was different. The wood felt colder, heavier, and the air felt thicker, almost suffocating. I shrugged it off, but something gnawed at me. I moved on to testing other locks, doors, cabinets, anything I could find. The key worked on all of them, no matter what the lock was made of. No matter the design, I tried it on the vault doors, the supply room, maintenance lockers, even old equipment that had been out of use for decades. Each time the lock clicked open effortlessly. It wasn't until I decided to test the key on something more personal that I realized just how much power SCP-005 really had. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the thrill of discovering something new. But I went to my office and tried it on the lock of my own desk drawer. The one my most private files. The one that only I had the key to. I had never shown anyone the combination to the drawer, and I always kept it locked away. The moment the key turned, the drawer opened. But not like it should have. It wasn't just unlocked. The drawer seemed to bend reality itself. Inside wasn't just paperwork. I could see things I shouldn't have seen. My memories, people I'd known, familiar faces, colleagues, loved ones, friends. All staring back at me, distorted like the drawer was a window into a very fabric of time. I could hear their voices, distant whispers in the back of my mind, calling my name, begging me to close the drawer. But I couldn't. I just kept looking. The key, it was as if it was drawing me in. I couldn't look away. The drawer started to glow, the edges flickering like a television losing its signal. The whispers turned to screams. Suddenly there was a cold hand on my shoulder. I spun around. Standing behind me was a man, tall, dressed in a suit with dark eyes that stared through me. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there watching. Before I could, nope, I almost skipped something. You shouldn't have opened it, he said, his voice low and hollow, like it was being carried on a distant wind. Before I could respond, I felt a rush of air around me, like something was trying to suck the air out of the room. I turned back to the drawer. The faces in it were gone. In their place were letters, all written in a language I couldn't understand. The symbols seemed to move, shifting on the pages like they were alive. Then the drawer slammed shut. The room went still. The air felt normal again. But I knew something had changed. I don't know if it was the key itself or whatever it was that had followed me from the drawer. But I knew one thing for certain. The key key had opened something more than just locks. It had unlocked a part of me that I didn't know existed. It opened my mind to something else, something terrifying. I never saw that man again. I still hear him sometimes, his voice echoing in the back of my mind, telling me I shouldn't have opened it. The key's still in my possession. It is in a containment locker at Site 19, but I don't trust it anymore. I've seen the things it can unlock, and I know I'm not the same person I was before. Whatever SCP-005 is not just a key to doors, it's a key to something far worse. Something that shouldn't be unlocked. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is why we do not mess with keys called skeleton keys. They are dangerous. We do not know what they do. We do not know what they unlock. So always avoid those kind of things. But that was a pretty simple one in my opinion. That wasn't really too scary. It was just more, as you know, just don't do kind of thing. But as I'm seeing from the end of the studio, it looks like time is up for us tonight. So we're going to end it here for the broadcast, So folks, another moonlit chapter closed, another dance with unexplained. From blocked vaults to whispers in the dark, we've strolled through the tales most mysterious and minds most twisted. Whether you're a night owl or just a curious cat, I thank you for lending your ears and your courage. Now, as the curtain falls and the broadcast fades, remember some things are best left buried. But not tonight. Sleep tight, and should you hear a knock at your door after midnight, well, maybe don't answer. Until next time, ghastly gang, this is your host, tipping the fedora and vanishing into the velvet dark. Stay sharp, stay strange, and always keep listening.